Hello everybody, Shady here from MMOBOMB.com bringing you episode 1 of League of Legends Champions. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at Fiora, who is a bruiser that excels at 1v1 combat. Fiora is best used in top lane, however on rare occasions can be jungled or even taken to mid. Fiora's passive, Duelist, grants health regeneration each time you attack. Hitting champions causes this effect to stack up to 4 times. Fiora's first ability is Lunge. When used, you dash to an enemy target dealing damage. Lunge can be used again within 4 seconds at no mana cost. Fiora's second ability is Riposte. Leveling this grants a passive attack damage increase, and when used, you parry an enemy's basic attack, reflecting magic damage back. Fiora's third ability is Burst of Speed. When used, you gain attack speed, and each basic attack or lunge performed during the duration increases movement speed, stacking up to 3 times. Fiora's ultimate is Blade Waltz. When used, you become invulnerable, dashing to enemy champions and dealing damage for a short time. For runes, I take a fairly typical bruiser build. Armor yellows and magic resist blues give me survivability, while armor pen reds and quints synchronize well with Fiora's riposte and burst of speed abilities. The armor penetration quintessences can be swapped out for lifesteal quints. This grants higher lane sustain, but sacrifices some mid-game damage output. And for masteries, either 21-9-0 or 9-21-0 can be used. Putting 21 points into offense maximizes damage output, while 21 points in defense can help you fill an off-tank role or survive a difficult lane. These runes and masteries are meant for use in top lane, so if you're jungling or going against an AP mid, you should tweak them accordingly. For summoner spells, I recommend Flash and Ignite. Fiora has no true escape mechanic other than dashing to minions if they happen to be behind her, so Flash can be her only escape. Ignite is also useful for finishing opponents or reducing heals on an enemy carry in team fights. Secondary summoner spells would be Exhaust and Teleport. Exhaust being useful to help shut down auto-attacking carries, and Teleport can be used to assist in taking dragon or split pushing and teleporting into team fights. The recommended items on Fiora focus on survivability. Her kit is designed to win engagements one-on-one, and with low mana cost and lifesteal items, Fiora can force enemies out of experience range, out of the lane entirely, or just outright kill enemies who aren't cautious enough. To start, take either cloth armor and health potions, or boots and health potions if your lane opponent isn't primarily attack damage. Buy Doran's blades early, giving you the health, damage, and lifesteal to stay in lane and bully your opponent. For mid-game, you can transition into either Wriggle's Lantern or Bloodthirster. Take Wriggles if you're having trouble in your lane or need to catch up on farm, or if you're already ahead of your enemy and have a few kills, saving up for that Bloodthirster presses your advantage even harder. Your boots of choice should be either Mercury Treads if they have large amounts of crowd control, or Ninja Tabby if you're more concerned about their AD carries. Due to Fiora's dashes and speed boost abilities, your tier 2 boots can often wait until mid-game to be completed. But don't forget to buy your boots of speed as your first or second item. Late game items will vary depending on needs. If you're being focused or having a hard time sticking to targets, consider Frozen Mallet, Guardian's Angel, or Quicksilver Sash. For damage output, consider items such as Infinity Edge or Last Whisper. Remember to mix choices, as building pure damage can cause you to die instantly in team fights, while pure survivability can stop you from focusing and killing carries quickly. My preferred skill order on Fiora is to max her ultimate, then Riposte, then Burst of Speed, and lastly Lunge. Maxing Riposte first gives you extra AD, which helps in last hitting, and scales with Blade Waltz and Lunge. I leave Lunge until last and only use it for its dashing utility for chasing or escaping. Fiora can be a dominant force if her laning phase goes well. Fiora depends on items and levels for damage, so the laning phase is very important. She should win any lane against a weaker duelist, but has trouble against stronger 1v1 opponents. You should use Riposte to net as much farm as possible before reaching level 3 or 4. The extra AD Riposte grants you should guarantee last hits. Once you have your full skill set, it's time to start winning the lane. Fiora uses low mana costs and high cooldowns to perform brief, high damage combos. Use all of your abilities and then back out until they refresh. When your opponent comes close for a last hit, activate Burst of Speed and attack them, using Lunge if necessary. Use your speed boost to chase and be ready to hit riposte to block their attack and deal extra damage. If you can, save lunge for any escapes they may use. You can even use lunge to get close to them under a tower, and your second lunge to dash to minions and back out. Never initiate when you have a minion disadvantage. Remember, minions hurt. Once you have reached level 6, you can use the previously mentioned combo to bring your opponent low. Once they're down, you can use lunge to get into range, and then blade waltz or ignite to finish them off. Fiora is susceptible to ganks due to no real escape ability. Use wriggles or buy wards and place them down in the river constantly. Fiora's main job in teamfights is to focus down enemy carries. These targets are generally low health, high damage priorities. The best way to go about this is to wait for the enemy team to use the majority of their crowd control, and then use lunge or flank to enter the back lines. Use lunge and burst of speed to stick to an enemy and bring them down quickly. In teamfights, Fiora's ultimate can be used either offensively or defensively. You can use it offensively to damage a tightly packed enemy team, or to tower dive or catch a fleeing enemy with low health. Defensively, you can use it to escape being focused, since Blade Waltz gives you a few seconds of invulnerability and applies on-hit effects such as lifesteal. If you're attempting to kill the carry and get focused, your best bet is to Blade Waltz, giving you extra HP to finish the fight and of course dealing damage. So, now that we have talked about Fiora's build and her items and her spells and how to play her, I wanted to talk about how she actually feels, because no matter how much you look at a champion on paper, how much theory crafting you do, the feel of a champion can drastically change your opinion upon playing them. I will say that Fiora is fairly simple. Her abilities all have a very specific use and don't require a lot of practice. The timing on riposte and saving lunge instead of using it to initiate, which is what you first want to do with it, are probably the most difficult parts to Fiora. With that being said, I don't think you can just charge into teamfights slamming keys. Timing is paramount to Fiora since she's not as tanky as most bruisers, and at times she can even be played as an outright carry or an assassin. As you can see from all the deaths in the background right now, entering a teamfight too early or overextending past your team to kill a carry is easy to do, and it's quickly punished. You also need to pay attention to your team composition and builds and be aware of what role you're filling. Fiora is capable of being a bruiser. She's also capable of being a squishy assassin or a carry, and she's very dependent upon her lifesteal to stay alive both in teamfights and in the laning phase. The reason you're going to want to pay attention to your team composition as builds is because Fiora requires her items to fill whatever role she's entering. If she's going to be a bruiser, you need to build high in defense, which does leave her lacking in offense, but it fills that role. If you're playing an assassin or a carry and you already have 2 or more tanks on your team, you need to make sure that you're not building defense that you don't need, and instead focus on entering the fight at the correct time. Now, as I mentioned before, Fiora's laning phase is very important. You can somewhat compare her gameplay to Akali or Talon, in the sense that if you do well, you get first blood, you farm freely, you're going to dominate almost any enemy one-on-one. And you will absolutely terrify the enemy carries in team fights. They're not going to be able to focus on anybody. You're just going to crush everything, and you'll never die because you're going to have 40% lifesteal. However, if you're being forced out of your lane, you die once or twice, you enter mid-game without your core build or a little bit under-leveled, there's almost no way to come back from it. You spend the rest of the match pretty much pushing side lanes, attempting to help objectives, but I mean there's really not enough damage to 1v1 the carry. They're just going to kill you before you kill them, and you won't be tanky enough to help protect your team in team fights. This is why I think that some people feel Fiora is underpowered at the moment or isn't very strong. Because when you first play her, you don't know her kit, you don't perform exceptionally the first couple of games, you're not going to do well, and you're going to end up not being able to do anything the whole match, and it's very frustrating, and you won't play her again. Now, my favorite parts to Fiora are her ultimate and her ability to completely rape towers. It's incredibly common to have around 200 AD by mid-game, and burst of speed is giving you around 100% attack speed bonus. So if you leave her alone in a lane, the next thing you know she's rushing your tower, and at times she'll clear it in a single minion wave, and you won't have any chance to stop her. Now with Blade Waltz, if an enemy flashes over a wall or towards a tower, they carry you with them. So there's times where you can kill people who completely aren't expecting it, but you gotta be